Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining Eureka Solutions webinar today, looking at the benefits of moving to NetSuite for fast-growing businesses. My name's Ross Johnson. I'm a solution consultant here at Eureka Solutions, and it will be myself that's running through the webinar today. So before we get started, just quickly go through our agenda for today. First off, we're going to start with an overview of Oracle NetSuite as a product. We're going to look at some of the history of NetSuite as well as what it can provide for fast-growing businesses. Next up, we're going to look at ourselves, Eureka Solutions, and give some background about ourselves and how we help our customers achieve success through our implementation, development, and support of NetSuite. Next, we're going to look specifically at how NetSuite benefits fast-growing businesses and the real-life efficiencies that it brings and how that translates into financial performance. Next, we'll go into a demo account where we'll give an overview of the high-level look and feel, as well as the dashboards that come pre-configured out of the box, and then go into some of the reporting functionality before running through the procure-to-pay process, which will show how different users interact with the system and the efficiencies that can be realised for fast-growing businesses using NetSuite. We'll be running a short Q&A at the end as well, so if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to leave them in the panel and we can address them at the end. If you have any more specific questions about how NetSuite can match your requirements and bring benefits to your business, then please feel free to reach out following the webinar and we would be happy to discuss that further. First of all, what is NetSuite? NetSuite is the world's #1 cloud ERP system. It was founded in 1998 and was the first cloud ERP system, and it was acquired by Oracle in 2016. Unlike other cloud solutions that have been developed from previously on-premise solutions, NetSuite was born in the cloud and as such is a true 100% cloud business management system. NetSuite provides one database for multi-company financials, ERP and CRM. There are various functions that are managed through NetSuite, including finance and accounting, inventory, orders, procurement and CRM, all within this one unified database with the one source of the truth. Now, as well as this one database manages multi-company financials as well, which we'll touch on during the overview demonstration later in the webinar. NetSuite can be accessed from any device at any time, anywhere, using any supported browser. This means that there's no need for an application to be installed on the user's device. It can be simply accessed using a supported browser. As well as that, it's also supported by iOS and Android, where there's an application that can be downloaded for that. As part of the acquisition of NetSuite by Oracle, NetSuite moved to Oracle's cloud infrastructure, which has improved the already excellent high-class security and privacy of your data when running on NetSuite. As well as that, by moving over to Oracle and being acquired by Oracle in 2016, NetSuite now has an availability commitment of 99.7%. In reality, the average uptime is 99.98% for the past year, so much higher than the commitment there. As well as that, one of the major advantages of NetSuite is that it provides automatic upgrades every 6 months. This means that there's no chance of any version lock or anything like that other ERP solutions might face, and every customer is running on the same version of the software, and additional functionality is added which benefits all customers that are already on NetSuite. And all this combined means that we now have over 28,000 customers worldwide using NetSuite from a variety of industries across the world. Now, as well as this showing the trust that customers have in NetSuite as a solution, it also allows NetSuite to continue to develop process flows and leading practices based on customers from various industries across the world. As mentioned, NetSuite provides one unified database for various areas of the business and supports fast-growing businesses entering new markets with support for multi-language, multi-currency, multi-subsidiary management and multi-country tax compliance as well. NetSuite Suite Success methodology, which I will discuss in more detail later on in the webinar, allows customers to utilise areas of NetSuite that they require and then grow their usage of the system as and when required. So this is just a graphic here showing the different areas that are available within NetSuite. Just briefly, some information about Eureka Solutions as a partner and a solution provider of NetSuite. Eureka Solutions was founded in 1996 on two core principles, which are technical expertise and customer service, both of which we hold true to this day. We provide implementation, development and support for NetSuite, as well as Sage 200 and our own integration application, Cloud Data Exchange, which I'll also touch on later in the webinar. By focusing on this technical expertise in customer service, we've managed to grow from a staff of 3 in 2004 to over 60 today, with that focus still being in technical roles and that technical expertise. As well as our technical roles, we also have the necessary qualifications across our other members of staff, including part qualified accountants and Prince 2 qualified project managers. As part of our commitment to customer service, we receive feedback from all of our customers when we handle a support case. So we use a platform called Customer Sure, which provides independent feedback and is posted live to our website. To date, we almost have 7,000 reviews and we average 9.7 out of 10 for customer satisfaction, showing our commitment to customer service to this day. Now, focusing on this technical expertise in customer service has allowed us to maintain lasting relationships with our customers and experience consistent growth alongside our customers. So as part of our role as a partner and solution provider for NetSuite, we have received various awards just showing the value that we bring to our NetSuite customers. This included EMEA New Partner of the Year when we first started implementing NetSuite back in 2012. And to this date, we have delivered over 85 NetSuite projects. And last year, we received the NetSuite 5-Star Partner Award, which is the highest level of achievement, and also the UK Best Performing Partner Recognition Award. So who uses NetSuite? As mentioned, there are over 28,000 companies that use NetSuite to this day. Just try to give a variety of different industries here, of different companies that use NetSuite that have experienced rapid growth whilst using the system. Now, there'll be household names there that you'll be familiar with, such as Gymshark, Deliveroo and Groupon, who have all experienced rapid growth and have used NetSuite as their chosen solution to fuel this growth. For example, Gymshark have grown over 200% year on year for the past 7 years. And as well as that, Groupon, when they implemented NetSuite in 2011, they were actually regarded as the fastest growing company ever at that time, which just goes to show how growing companies do get the most out of NetSuite and do use it as their chosen solution. Now, as well as that, I would just like to bring some attention to one of our customers, Connect. We implemented NetSuite for Connect and they experienced 146% growth in turnover over the 2 years following their implementation. Additionally, we do have a variety of customers across different industries. Another one that I'll bring attention to is Dotmatics, who use NetSuite to cope with the high growth and consolidate financial management, which came from opening subsidiaries in the USA, Australia, and a new subsidiary in Japan as well, and consolidating all of that financial management into one global finance system. Now, these case studies and more can be accessed on our website. So if you want to have a look into how Eureka Solutions have helped companies in your industry implementing NetSuite, then please feel free to visit these success stories on our website following the webinar. I did previously mention that we here at Eureka Solutions have our own cloud-based integration tool called Cloud Data Exchange. Cloud Data Exchange allows us to transfer data between different systems. We have a variety of different third-party systems already set up with connectors for Salesforce, Shopify, WooCommerce, and so on. And we can also customize and extend our integrations to make sure that we've got the connectors to other third-party systems, and we achieve this via API or flat file. Previously, I mentioned the Suite Success methodology that we follow here at Eureka Solutions when implementing new NetSuite implementations. Now, Suite Success focuses on providing as much out-of-the-box functionality as possible based on the leading practices of the 28,000 plus customers that are currently using the system. Suite Success focuses on offering pre-built functionality across user roles, dashboards, reports, and KPIs, as well as process workflows like the procure-to-pay process that I'll be running through in the demo account. Now, in terms of the implementation of NetSuite, for fast-growing businesses, it may be the case that you want to get up and running with the core system first, which can be achieved, and then an implementation stairway can be used to expand on the functionality that's being used within NetSuite in the future. During the demonstration later on, I'll be using the Financial First account, which is focused on getting companies up and running on the core system before expanding with this additional functionality. But there are other additions available for software companies, wholesale distribution companies, service companies, manufacturing, and so on. So now we're going to look at why NetSuite is specifically good for growing businesses and the benefits that this can bring about. So there are various reasons why NetSuite is an ideal solution for companies that are on a high growth trajectory. To begin with, NetSuite is a flexible and scalable solution and allows companies to grow alongside their usage of the system. As NetSuite operates under software as a service model, it allows growing businesses to get up and running on that core system and take advantage of further functionality and unlock the suite as they continue to grow. NetSuite is also scalable in terms of transactional volumes, user numbers, and companies with the multi-company, multi-country, and multi-language functionality that comes with NetSuite. This means that fast-growing businesses, when considering entering into new markets, are supported by NetSuite, and it allows them to expand globally. Now, beyond this, NetSuite also supports the growth of company and aids in decision-making by providing out-of-the-box dashboards and KPIs. Now, these dashboards and KPIs, which I'll show during the demonstration, allow data analytics and visibility that are required to make informed decisions. These dashboards can then be easily personalized to ensure that the user has access to the data in the format that they want. NetSuite also allows businesses to automate key processes across the company. What this does is it reduces the amount of manual work by employees, allowing them to spend more time adding value and allow companies to avoid hiring additional resources and instead making the most of the resources that they already have in place. All of these benefits have been found to translate into proven findings here. Now, this was an independent study carried out by SL Associates and interviewed different users of NetSuites to identify some real-life evidence of what NetSuite can provide for companies in a variety of industries. Now, you can see here that the biggest benefit was the increase in the visibility and actionable insight there, increasing from between 50 and 80% on average. Now, as well as that, there was massive gains on staff productivity, as well as the time to close financial books. Now, this is because of the automation that NetSuite provides. So that's everything for the slides. I'll now go into the NetSuite demo account that we've got set up for this and just run you through some of the functionality and some of the processes that come out of the box with NetSuite. Once again, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the Q&A panel and we can address them towards the end of the session. And if you have any more specific questions about how NetSuite would be the right fit for your business, then please feel free to reach out following the webinar and we would be happy to discuss further. So as you see here, I'm currently on a Google Chrome browser here, where I can access NetSuite as it is completely cloud-based and there is no need for any applications to be installed on the device. If we come in here to our login, I'll just log into the demo account that we've got set up here. Now, additional security features such as two-factor authentication can also be set up to ensure that your data is safe within the system and you have the level of security and privacy that you require. Now, as you see, we have logged into the demo account here. As I mentioned, this is a financial first version edition of NetSuite, but there are other editions available depending on your company and the industry that you operate in. So the first thing that you'll notice, and I'll go into a bit more detail shortly, is the home dashboard here, which is our landing page on NetSuite. Now, as you can see, as soon as we log into the system, we can see the visibility and actionable insight that NetSuite brings to companies. Starting here on the top right, you'll see that we are logged in as the CFO, Andy Morgan, in this demo account. And as you can see here, it is a role-based system. So we can go between these different roles, and we will do during the process overview, just to show you how different users interact with the system. Now, coming along the top of the screen here, we have a global search, which allows us to look for different transactions and records in the system. For example, by searching for PO 104, we can open up this purchase order here and get direct access to the information there. We can also use prefixes on this global search bar. So say, for example, we're looking for a certain supplier that has computer in the name, then we can type ahead and allow the suggestion there as well, and brings that up in the global search bar. Now, moving down, we have a traditional menu structure along the top of the screen here. This provides us access to recently used records, as well as shortcuts here, where we can add commonly used pages and reports within NetSuite to give that quick and easy access. We then have our home button, which allows us to get back to this home dashboard no matter where we are in the system. Now, coming along here, we do have this traditional drop-down menu structure, which allows us to access different areas of the system. And these will differ based on the permission and restrictions of the different users and the access that they've got to the system in their role. Now, as I mentioned, the home dashboard that we're looking at just now comes pre-configured out of the box, but can be easily personalized and customized to make sure that the user is accessing the data that they require on a day-to-day basis in the format that they want to visualize that in. You can see here the different sections can be dragged and dropped around the screen to make sure that they are being displayed in the way that the user wants them to be. Now, beyond that, we can also personalize the dashboard here by adding and removing different sections onto our home dashboard, allowing us to personalize that to allow us to view it the way that we want it to. So first of all, the first section that we've got set up here is our reminders tab here. So our reminders gives us that quick and easy insight into actions that need to be taken as soon as we log into the system. So you see here for the CFO, we've got some journals to approve, some expense reports to approve, as well as some more specific reminders, such as our invoices that are over 30 days old, over a value of £50,000. Now, these reminders do come pre-configured out of the box, but we can also create customized reminders as well. If there's any data that is in the system that we can search for, then we can create a reminder and pull that across onto our home dashboard. You'll see here it's extremely easy to just drag and drop to allow us to view these different reminders on our home dashboard. Now, as well as that, we can set up highlighting options just to make sure that we can bring attention to these different reminders depending on the number of reminders that we have there. Coming along to our next section, we have our key performance indicators scorecard here. So you see here for the CFO, this gives an overview of the entire business, looking at things like sales, expenses, revenue, receivables, and so on. And what this allows us to do is to track our current performance versus our previous. Now, just now we are looking at this month versus last month, and this period versus last period, but it's very easy to come in and change the range that we're looking at for these different KPIs. Now, as well as being able to add and remove standard KPIs, much the same as the reminders, we can also create custom KPIs based on the data that we have already in the system, and we can pull them across onto our home dashboard. Now, these KPIs are also drillable, so all of these figures come from different reports within the system, and we can quickly and easily interrogate this data to allow us to look further into where these figures are coming from, which I'll do shortly once we've gone through the rest of the home dashboard here. So on the right-hand side, we've got an example of a trend graph, which is simply looking at our revenue by period. And once again, common theme in NetSuite is that ability to personalize these sections to allow you to view the information that you need in the format that you want. So we've got lots of different options for the way that these trend graphs can be visualized, as well as, once again, being able to set up different KPIs to review different areas of the business here as well, which can be easily changed by the user. Scrolling down on our home dashboard, we have got our navigation shortcut group and our tiles here. Now, this just provides a different way of accessing different areas and different reports within NetSuite. It's very much up to the user how they wish to navigate through the system, but there are plenty of options there to get where you need to be quickly and easily within NetSuite. Now, scrolling down here, I mentioned the multi-company and multi-country functionality that NetSuite brings. Now, as you see here in this demo account, we have got our parent company, as well as 2 UK-based subsidiaries and a US-based subsidiary. What we also have here is our elimination subsidiary, which allows us to eliminate revenue and expenses at the consolidated level to remove the effect of transactions between these subsidiaries. Now, what we can do here at the click of a button is change the context of our entire home dashboard as to what company in the group that we are looking at. So say, for example, we wanted to look at the US subsidiary. By simply clicking that here, you'll see that all of the data on our home dashboard refreshes there. And you'll also see here as well that we can start to visualize this in the base currency of this subsidiary. So that's changed to US dollars here, and it's changed all of the data to simply apply to this one company within the group structure. So I'll just change that back to the parent company so we can view everything again at the consolidated level. So scrolling down through the rest of the home dashboard, we have got some different KPI trend graphs just to display information in some different formats. So we've got new customers versus existing customers here, just looking at the business that we've got currently running through just now. And then we've also got stuff like our expenses by period, as well as looking at income versus cost of goods sold here, visualizing 2 different KPIs on the one trend graph, just to allow us that visibility there across the entire business. Now, scrolling down here as well, we also have a financial scorecard, which, much like the KPIs at the top of the screen, for the CFO, this just provides insight across the entire business, looking at things like our bank balance, our revenue, expenses, and so on. Now, once again, these figures are drillable, so we can access the reports that these figures are being pulled from to interrogate these details further. Now, as well as that, we can quickly and easily view a trend graph to allow us to visualize this information as well. Just in case we don't want too many trend graphs on our home dashboard, we can also access them quickly and easily by using this functionality here. Now, as I mentioned, the home dashboard does come pre-configured out of the box for the different users of the system, but it can be personalized to make sure that each individual user is getting everything that they need from this home dashboard. Now, coming back to our key performance indicators, as I mentioned, these figures are all drillable. So if we click here and open that in a new tab, which is utilizing NetSuite's browser functionality, you can see that we can continue to work away on our home dashboard here, have a look at our reminders, whilst opening up the profit and loss account in our other tab here. So I'll go through some of the functionality that the reports that also come pre-configured out of the box with NetSuite provide. So to begin with, if we come down to the bottom here, you can see that we can quickly and easily change the period that we're looking at. So say, for example, we wanted to look at last fiscal year, then we can click that here and click refresh. Now, as well as this, we can view custom date ranges as well. So if there's a specific period that you're looking to interrogate, then you can do that very easily within the system. Now you see here, by changing that to last fiscal year, we're now looking at January to December 2021. And what these figures are as well is they are also drillable. So if I wanted to have a look into the revenue here, simply by clicking through and then clicking onto the individual invoices, we can get to that invoice level of detail from a couple of clicks from our home dashboard, just providing that insight into what's making up these figures within the system. Now you see here, we've got an example of an invoice, and we can view all of the details and how these figures come across and impact our profit and loss account here. Now I will go into the records and forms in some more detail later on, but just note that these can be personalized and customized to add and remove fields to make sure that the information that you require for different transactions can be recorded as appropriate. So just coming back to our profit and loss account, we'll just change our period back to the last fiscal year and refresh that there. You'll see along the bottom that we have got a lot of functionality here. For example, at the moment we are looking at our consolidated parent company, but say for example we wanted to look at that US subsidiary in that local currency, then we can do so here and refresh that and look at it in US dollars. Now what's going on in the background is that we've got FX rates that are either automatically or manually updated within the system, and they consolidate all of those figures into the parent base currency, which is of course GBP in this account. So one thing that you may notice as well about the profit and loss is that it is streamlined in terms of the chart of account structure. Now, NetSuite's leading practice recommends keeping the profit and loss in the chart of accounts as streamlined as possible, and then using classifications which are tagged on transactions to provide that further level of slicing and dicing and analysis of these different reports. So if we come down here to column, you'll see that we have got class, department and location, which are the three classifications that come out of the box with NetSuite. But then we have the option to create unlimited number of custom segments to allow us to slice and dice this data further depending on requirements. So if I click here, first of all, on class and then refresh, you'll see that we can now view our profit and loss based on our different classes, which tend to be used for revenue streams or perhaps product groupings. So these can be easily customized and configured to make sure that they are relevant to the company that NetSuite has been implemented for. In this example, we've simply got it broken down to online marketplace, where we've got a hierarchical structure looking at B2B and B2C as part of that parent and child relationship, as well as looking at some in-store partners and some miscellaneous as well there. Now, as a fast-growing business, we understand that your products and services may grow rapidly as you expand the business, and these classes here can be added extremely easily as well within the system to allow that support for future growth. Now, coming down here as well, one of the other classifications that we get out of the box is departments, which is used for cost center analysis here. So you see here that we've got our different areas of the business, and this allows us to look at the cost center analysis to analyze these different departments and the costs and expenses that we are experiencing for them. Now, as well as that, we also have location, which comes out of the box, which allows us to view our different locations across the business to compare the performance across these key locations. And once again, as the business expands, it's easy enough to add in additional locations as and when required. So once again, as well as these three classifications that come out of the box, we can extend to unlimited number of custom segments to allow further slicing and dicing of key reports. So some additional functionality beyond that, we can view our individual subsidiaries alongside each other as part of our hierarchical structure here as well. So we've got our UK subsidiary 1 and 2, as well as our US subsidiary, so we can compare performance across the different companies as part of the group here. Now, as well as that, we can view the P&L here across this full fiscal year based on the accounting period breakdown. So you see here at the top, we've got our financial year 2021, and then we've got that broken down into Q1 and then the individual months here, just to allow us to visualize our performance across these different periods here, just at a couple of clicks of a button using these columns down here as well. So I'll just change that back to our total one. And beyond that, we also have additional functionality here where we can then start to filter the profit and loss here based on the different classes that we want to be looking at, as well as the customers, departments, and even the items as well, if we want to look at specific items that we are selling to our customers. Now, as well as that, you'll see down the bottom that we do have the option to customize this report, which would take us to NetSuite's financial report builder, allowing us to change the way that this information is displayed to us. Now, when customizing a report, it can be saved as a different version of the report. So say, for example, you are a user that wants to visualize this in a slightly different format, then you can save that as your own version without overwriting the profit and loss account here. So coming along the bottom, we also have some options in terms of the way that the data is visualized here in the report. We can change the formatting to show that in a grid. We can also change the way that the display titles are displayed on the report as well. And coming along, we also have the option to export this straight out to Excel, PDF, CSV, and Word document as well. So we can take this information out of the system quickly and easily. Now, beyond that, we also have the option to email reports directly out of the system, as well as setting up schedules, which allow us to send reports on a recurring basis. So say, for example, there was a requirement for a report to be sent out on a daily basis, then we could do that as well and set that up to send out at a certain time. And that just allows us to experience less manual effort and automate this key information going to different users that perhaps might not be within the system. We can get that scheduled to be sent out directly to their email address. Now, coming out of the profit and loss account, there are various different reports that come out of the box with NetSuite. Now, these can be used as a basis to create more personalised reports, or reports can also be created from scratch as well. Now, without going into too many of the different reports, I'll just show you the budget versus actual to show us how we can keep a track of the budgeted amount versus our actual amount here. So you see here that we've got our amount against our budget, as well as the amount that we're over budget and the percentage of the budget that we are achieving there as well. Now, once again, we can change the context to look at the different companies within the group structure, and we can also use these same classifications. Now, these classifications allow us to budget down to that lower level of detail and provide us with our budgets across the entire company. Now, as well as being able to enter budgets directly into NetSuite, we can also upload them using a CSV file as well. So that's everything just now in terms of the reporting functionality, and we can go into that in more detail, perhaps in a future webinar, or perhaps if you have any further questions on that, then feel free to reach out to us directly, and we'd be happy to discuss further the insights that the reports in NetSuite can bring to fast-growing businesses. Now, in terms of automating processes, as I previously mentioned, NetSuite allows users to automate processes within the system, allowing there to be less manual effort and allowing existing staff to use their time more effectively and more efficiently, allowing fast-growing businesses to avoid hiring additional staff and making the most of the resources that they currently have. Now, in terms of processes, I'm going to run through the procure-to-pay process, which we find is quite often an area that fast-growing businesses are looking into as they continue to grow and approval processes and so on become more complex. So if I come up here, I can change into the different roles here. So I'll just change into the purchasing role here just now. And as you'll see, when we log into the purchasing role, the home dashboard is configured differently to show us different details and different information that Stella James in this purchasing role would need to see on a day-to-day basis. So we've got the usual sort of sections here on the home dashboard, but we've got them in slightly different format and showing different data from the system here, such as our reminders looking at purchase orders that need approval, ones that are late, and then moving on to our KPIs, looking at our total purchase order count and value, as well as any late purchase orders there as well. Coming across, we also have our KPI meters set up to show our total number of purchase orders, as well as looking at the different items that we have been purchasing based on the last month here as well. Now, once again, these can be configured based on the user's preference to ensure that they are seeing the information that they need in the format that they want. Now, using the global search, we'll just come up here and look for one of our supplier records that we have got set up in the system. If we come in here, we have got our supplier computer plus distributors. Now, as I mentioned previously, when entering records or transactions, these forms can be set up to ensure that the fields that are necessary for the information that needs to be recorded can be customized. So we can add and remove fields here as appropriate. So going through, we have a lot of information held against our supplier here. We've got stuff like basic contact information as well as address, but then we've got further information such as our purchase history, looking at the different transactions, as well as the items that we've been purchasing from this supplier. Coming into the financial subtab, we can also see the terms that we've got to default for this supplier, as well as our credit limit here. Now, we've also got some default expense and payable accounts to make sure that our transactions are going to the correct GL codes. Scrolling down here, we've got our different currencies. So if we've got a supplier that uses multiple currencies for transactions, then we can maintain that within the system as well, using that multi-currency functionality. Now, coming along, we also have stuff like our address. We can have multiple addresses. As well as that, we also have our communication subtab, which allows us to keep track of different messages that have been sent directly from the system here. Coming along, we can also keep a track of our different relationships, and this all does apply for the customers as well, that we can hold all of this key information as well and get insight into that. Now, just coming along, we also have our Vendor 360 scorecard here, which just allows us to see the performance of our supplier based on the previous transactions that we've had with them. We can look at stuff like our 12-month purchases, looking back at the previous year, and we can also just look at our scorecard here as well, which is looking at different KPIs that we have for this supplier. Now, coming in here, I can quickly and easily create a new purchase order for this supplier. And you'll see here that all of the information from the supplier record begins to pre-fill this purchase order so that we've got less manual entry. So you see here that the supplier has pre-filled, as well as the currency based on our default for the supplier, whilst also having the options to change the currency here as well, which will show you the exchange rate that we've got set up within the system. Coming along here, we can also see that our billing information has pre-filled based on the information that we have on the supplier record, as well as our accounting terms, which were net 30. But if we had to change this on the fly for any reason, then we can do so as well. You'll see here that key fields that need to be submitted are indicated by an asterisk, and we can also change which fields are mandatory as well for different transactions. So if we just select our location here as well and select our employee as Stella James, then we can begin to enter our purchase order here, as well as taking a memo here if any information needs to be held as to what this purchase order is for. Now, we do have lots of different items set up in this demo account, and it may be the case that your company holds inventory items, or it may be non-inventory items that you're looking to purchase, but NetSuite has the flexibility to hold all different types of items, as well as service items within the system. Now, for the sake of this demo, we'll just use a general item code, which we've got set up for office supplies. Now, if we tab along, we can start to enter different information here. So say, for example, we're raising a purchase order for 2 Apple MacBook Pro 14-inch. Then we can enter this detail in here as well. And then continue tabbing along, you'll start to see how those classifications are tagged against the transactions here. So we've got a department, we'll say that we're ordering this for the sales department, and we've also got our class here as well, which we can add in. So moving along, you'll see that we've got our rate here as well as our quantity. So if we change our quantity, that will multiply by our rate to give us the total amount, as well as pre-selecting the tax code based on the information that we've got for this item set up within the system. But once again, this can be changed on the fly as well. Now, if we add that and save the purchase order, as mentioned, NetSuite allows approval processes for different processes in the system, such as the procure to pay process. So you see here that when submitting that purchase order, it has gone to pending supervisor approval, which is one of the basic routing approval processes within NetSuite, but it can be set up to be as complex as required, and whether that be going to different department heads and so on, that can be set up using NetSuite's workflow generator. So if I just change to the executive role, who is the user who has got the access to approve this PO, then you'll see once again another example of a home dashboard showing different details in the system that this user would want to access. We've got some slightly different setup here. We've got our executive financials, which provides that overview of the entire company here as well as some different reminders here as well. But the one that we're interested in is our purchase request to approve. Now, by coming in here, we can see the PO that we raised, PO number 145. And by clicking the hyperlink here, we can review the detail of this PO, as well as approving or rejecting the PO. And if we were to reject this, this would send a message back to the original user that raised the PO. But for the sake of this demo, we'll just approve this. Now you see here that we also have the option to come in and edit the details. So if there was anything that we needed to change as the approver, then we can do that very easily. Now coming into the PO, you'll see that it is now gone to approved by supervisor and pending receipt. The items can be set up within NetSuite to either be received or not to be received, which allows us to automatically do a 2-way or 3-way match depending on our preference there. Now, if we come into the Communications tab and then onto our messages, we'll see that this PO has been sent directly out of the system to the email address that we've got on file for this supplier. And you'll see here that it's attached the PO here as a PDF. Now, these can be customized to display the information in the format that you require as your business process. So now that that has been approved by the supervisor and has now gone to a status of pending receipt, I'll just change into a user that has access to do that. So just now I'll sign into the AP analyst, who is responsible for tracking our accounts payable. But in this demo account, they also have access to be able to receive orders. So if we come in here, once again, this home dashboard is set up as pre-configured to show different information. If we come in here, we can filter to our suppliers, and you'll see here we have our purchase order 145 that we raised for Computer Plus distributors. Now we do have the option to either bulk receive here, or we can go into the individual PO, once again using that hyperlink, and receive that from here. Now what this will do is this will create an item receipt, which you can then see is linked back to the original purchase order there. And as well as that, we also have the functionality to be able to receive purchase orders, which would keep the purchase order open until all of the items are received there. We'll just click save there just now. And you'll see here now that that has been received, we then have the option to bill this order here and enter the invoice. Now we can do that from the home dashboard using the reminders, but for the sake of time, I'll just receive that directly from the item receipt. So you see here that all of our information has pre-filled based on the item receipt and the purchase invoice that we originally entered for this supplier. Now we've got our reference number here, which would be the invoice number. So I'll just enter a number here just now. Then you'll see here that we can review the information here. Now, say for example, the rate on the invoice was different, then we can change that as well. Say for example, we were charged 1,800 instead of the original 1,600, then we can enter that into the system. And now what NetSuite will do is it will use the out-of-the-box three-way match process to check back against the original item receipt and PO just to compare the values there. And you'll see here that our bill has gone to a status of pending approval as it's recognised an exception here. So if we come into the exception, you'll see here that the bill amount exceeds the PO amount, which has caused the system to flag this up, basically saying that there's an issue here and we may want to review this further. And as such, it's gone to a status of pending approval. Now quickly, if I just change to the controller role, who is set up for this workflow, for that to go to this user to approve, then you'll see here, once again, we have got another home dashboard providing insight across the entire business for the controller in their role. Here we have got our bills to approve. Just by refreshing that there, you'll see in real time that's updated from 2 to 3 invoices requiring approval. And if we come in here, we can see that we have got our invoice here that requires approval for Computer Plus distributors. And we can see here, once again, the reasoning behind that is that the PO amount is exceeded in the invoice there. So this out-of-the-box functionality just provides more automation and provides less manual tracking whilst maintaining the control of key processes, such as this procure-to-pay process that we've run from throughout. Now you'll see here that we've once again got the option to approve or reject this bill. And once again, if we were to reject it, it would allow us to provide information as to why the invoice was being rejected. But for the sake of this demo, we'll just approve this here. And you'll see here that now this has been approved, and you'll see that our 30-day payment terms have been pulled through for our due date on the 17th of March. Now, to be able to track this, we have got our AP aging summary, which allows us to look at our different suppliers across the business and keep up to date with our current balance as well as our balance in 30, 60 and 90 days. As well as the reports that we've gone through previously, we can change the look and feel of this report. For example, we can change the aging options to change the number of bands and the number of days that we're looking at here in this format, as well as being able to change the date range that we're looking at and to be able to customize that to change the format that we're viewing this report in. Now, if we come in here to our Computer Plus distributors, you'll see here that we have got the invoice that we entered there, as well as our age of minus 30 days, which is basically showing that this invoice is going to be due in 30 days. Now, coming back to the home dashboard, we do have a bills to pay reminder set up here. And then what this bills to pay reminder will do is will show us any invoices that are due within 5 days, just providing this insight across the entire business to make sure that we're not missing any payments to suppliers. Now, I hope that's given a high-level overview of what NetSuite can do for fast-growing businesses in terms of the reporting and visibility that it provides, as well as the automation of key processes, such as our procure-to-pay process that we've ran through there from start to finish. Now, as I mentioned, NetSuite is supportive of multi-country, multi-company accounting and allows fast-growing companies to expand into international territories and make use of the system and the additional functionality as and when they're required to do so. Now, we've got around 5 minutes left, so we'll just have a quick Q&A. I'll just have a look at the panel and see if there's been any questions so far. And if you have any questions just now, then please feel free to add them into the Q&A. So just opening up the Q&A there, we've got a question looking at component tracking for companies in regulated industries for medical devices. So we do have a number of life sciences companies which we can send you information on for the case studies that we have posted online. In terms of functionality, specifically for that, we would be keen to set up a follow-up call as that is quite a specific question for your requirements, and that will allow us to look into that into more detail and provide you with the information that you require, as well as looking at any other specific requirements that you would have for medical devices. And that goes for other members of this call as well. If there's any participants that have any specific questions on how NetSuite would be suited for the specifications of their company, then please feel free to reach out and we would be happy to discuss that further. So we've got a question here about NetSuite license fees and when you typically start paying for the NetSuite license. So it is traditionally at the start of the implementation process, and from there is also an option for the Oracle finance team to put in place a payment holiday. So say, for example, you get up and running with the system, the implementation starts, but you are looking for perhaps a 6-month payment holiday before you start paying for the license, then that can be organised with Oracle depending on all the necessary approvals going through there. So we have another question here. It's a specific question about integration with Salesforce. So this is something that we can take offline and discuss in more detail if required. But as I mentioned, our Cloud Data Exchange application does provide Salesforce integration. Now, NetSuite, although I didn't touch on it there during the demonstration, NetSuite does have core CRM functionality, but we do understand that when companies are set up on different systems such as Salesforce, they may want to keep this in place and instead bring across the figures and data via an integration. Now, in terms of the data that we can bring across, we do have Cloud Data Exchange set up for these integrations, and we do have default connectors to bring across stuff like customer information and bring through different sales transactions at different levels, different stages of the process. But if there's anything sort of specific in terms of your requirements, then please feel free to reach out following the webinar, and we'll be happy to discuss the integration options that are available for Salesforce connecting to NetSuite. So that's all the questions that we have just now. If there's any more questions, then please feel free to enter them into the panel and we would be happy to answer them. We've got a couple of minutes left But if there isn't any other questions, then we can wrap up the webinar. And once again, if you do have anything specific, then you can feel free to get in touch afterwards. So there doesn't seem to be any questions at this stage. So I'd just like to thank you all again for joining today's webinar for Fast Growing Businesses. Once again, this session has been recorded and will be shared following the webinar here. So if there were any colleagues that have been unable to attend, then we will send that out and they can review the webinar. Once again, please feel free to get in touch if you have any further questions, and we'd be happy to discuss how NetSuite can help your growing business and continue on that growth trajectory. Thanks a lot, everyone. Thank you.